Oh, hey guys, sorry, didn't see you walk in. No, all jokes aside, obviously I'm not here today, so I'm going to walk you through what it is that you need to complete by next class. So, what we're going to do today is our goal. First off, our goal is to explain the cause and effects of the market revolution. You'll find this at the end of chapter 8 in your AMSCO textbook. So, let me give you some background. Shark Tank, it's a series on NBC that features a panel of potential investors called Sharks that consider offers from aspiring entrepreneurs seeking investments for the business or product. The entrepreneur can either make a deal on the show if a panel member is interested. However, all the panel members opt out, the entrepreneur leaves empty handed. The sharks often find weakness and faults in entrepreneur's concept, product, or business model. Here are a couple examples if you want to take a look at this. Now, for this week, what's going to happen is we're going to follow a version of the Shark Tank. It might be a little bit different, though. So you're all going to play the role of investors, but also sharks. So in short, you're going to create a presentation with your groups of 3 to 4, and you are going to present this to the sharks, which is the rest of the classroom. After your presentation, what we'll do is we'll have a quick question and answer session, and then we will bid. Yes, you will be given roughly about $30,000 to bid for some of these inventions. Right? We'll keep a running tab of who's bid on what, so which sharks have made the best investments. But also, what we'll do is we'll keep a tab on whose invention sold the most. Uh, so I'm going to start right here. You and your partners will be randomly assigned one of the major inventions of the market revolution. You will then create a presentation and pitch. I recommend filling out this graphic organizer. All right. Uh, so here's this graphic organizer here. Just want to go over a couple things. Number one, uh, you want to provide just a brief history of your, actually, first off, let me take a step back. I recommend you complete the sheet because the groups that have done so, their presentations have been more detailed, right? Every presentation, I'm not going to give you a time limit on it, but it should go roughly between, I would say, I've had them between 7 to 10 minutes, right? Um, yeah, I'd even say if you're in the 6 minute margin, that's okay, right? But look at this. You want to give me a detailed description of your invention, what it'll cost, what will it do, what its purpose, who will create it, or who created it, and what does it look like, right? This is pretty straightforward. Give me the strengths of it, how it's changed this generation that you're in. What are the weaknesses, right? There's always going to be some problems with it. But one of the things that you could do is you could address potentially how it might get better in the future. That's a good thing about being in a history course, and you could look back and see how it developed and changed. What are the opportunities for growth, right? Looking at, I think one of the things I put on is look to see what add-ons are there, right? How it's been innovated, but you want to, of course, speak in the future, right? Like you might say, "Oh, I may foresee so and so adding this element to the telegraph system," right? But also, what are your threats? What I want you to think about threats is think about what was going on during that time, what political legislation existed, what were the environmental factors during this time. Um, you could also look at your competitors, right? This is the time in which you want to evaluate and criticize your competing opposition. So, for example, if you're the railroad, you might criticize the weaknesses of the steamboat, right? Also, external. You want to think about the long term growth and the short term growth, right? The opportunities for both. Think about short term immediately versus long term the next 20 years. And feel free to look forward in the history book if needed. You want to make sure that you outline your presentation very, very well. How will you convince your investors? Think about the data that you might use. Think about video clips that you might use that grab their attention. Um, any charts or figures that you might have, right? And then also, what you want to do is think about potential questions. At the very end of each session, I'm going to let the sharks ask you guys questions. And those questions will actually help their grade, right? It's because I want thought provoking questions. I want you guys to practice that critical thinking. So, what I recommend that you do is just think about questions that might be asked, right? So, going back to the instructions, we do have a sample here that you could look at. Right? Note that these examples do not meet all the requirements. It is simply a jumping point for you to start um, to give your pitch and just give you an idea of what a pitch might look like. So each group presents on Wednesday and Friday. I'm going to give you guys all of class time today. I'm also going to give you guys half of the class time. Actually, yeah, it's not half, maybe about 20 minutes or so just to get everything ready. And then we will present. Each group will write questions to ask investors. In addition, your group will also explain why or they will not invest in the invention. Investors will pitch their invention, and sharks can ask questions to better help and make the best investment decision. Right. So, in order for you to prepare as a Shark Tank investor, you must come to class prepared with at least one question about each invention. All right. Here is the invention sheet you will compete during when we do present, and I'll go over this. Right. But one thing I want you guys to do is, as each group presents, I want you to fill out this graphic organizer because you're responsible for it, right? For the AP exam, all this content. But also, what I want you to do is I want you to think about questions that you might want to ask. So, if your group finishes early today, go through each one of these and ask a question that you would like to ask when when the other groups present. All right. So here's a list here. Here's a rubric. This is how you guys are going to be graded. So, content, if you show a full understanding of the invention, its strength and weaknesses, you will get a 5 out of 5. So, basically, you're meeting everything on that outline sheet that I gave. Preparedness, right? If it's evident that you guys all rehearse, that's why I'm going to give you guys about 20 minutes or so, maybe in half the class time on your next class, right? Stay on topic 100% of the time, and this means that you're working 100% of the time, right? Mr. Hayes is going to be walking around today, and he's going to let me know what students are not on task because this is going to lower your participation grade, right? If you're not. So I don't want to see you working on other stuff. I want you working with a group, talking with each other. Don't just say, hey, we're going to split this up. I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. No, walk through the whole process together, right? Academic language, you want to make sure that you're using appropriate terminology, academic terminology during that time, right? You extend investors' knowledge by answering questions and investors clearly and concisely. So you're adhering to that roughly 10-minute time frame. More importantly, that I feel as if that you've used the academic knowledge, the academic terminology that's stated in your textbook, but also go above and beyond that. Enthusiasm, facial expressions, body language. You're really grabbing the interest of the sharks. Very important. So you are going to be graded here for things such as eye contact, body language, um, looking at your voice. All of these things are very important, right? Visual. I've had classes that have done presentations through PowerPoint or Google Slides. They've done videos. They've done posters. It needs to be pleasing in the eye and certainly show all the clear advantages that your invention has to offer. I've had students bring in samples of what their invention looks like. They've actually created it. All right. So if you have any questions, make sure that you do ask. This is our group of inventions with the appropriate inventor. And let me go through this. A couple things. Make sure yeah, and I've already gone over this. Extra credit. If possible, explain how specific people of color have innovated and advanced technology. This is often left down in history books. So, for example, if we have here the telegraph and you want to explain how African American inventors Granville T. Wood and Solomon Brown have made it better, go for it. Do so. Right? So, here are our groups. You'll notice that the way I've done this is you will have the numbers here on the left margin. That's going to be your corresponding it's going to correspond with your group number. So, for example, Javito, Giano, David, and Dominica, you guys are going to use the Erie Canal, right? Giselle, Laura, and Valerie, you guys are going to be the railroad. So, the group number corresponds with the group or with the invention, right? Same thing with period 6 as we have here, right? So, keep that in mind. If there is anyone absent in your group, what we could do is I'll have the substitute or Mr. Hayes. What you want to do is just take the students that have, or the groups that have a 4 and just put them in a group with 3. All right. Or with 2. So that way we can balance it out. All right. Well, have fun with this, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next class.